Hi, I'm Matthew Parker, the champion of print. I wonder how many of you have heard a sales approach from maybe your competitors that goes something along these lines. Hi, I'm Joe, I'm from ABC Printers, I've got great service, great quality, my prices are competitive, and I'm just wondering if you've got any work I could quote on. That seems like a fairly innocuous sales approach, doesn't it? And it's used by so many people in the printing industry. But it really does encourage me to buy on price. In my last video, I've already told you why selling on service and quality doesn't work. But there's another problem with this approach as well. How long did it take me to actually say that sales approach? 20 seconds? As a buyer, am I really going to trust you enough after 20 seconds of engagement from you to want to place my work with you? And of course the answer is almost certainly not. If I carry on the conversation at this point, it's only because I'm interested in finding a cheaper price. So what can you do to create a message that moves away from price, that engages the customers and the prospects that you want to engage and makes them want to work with you? In this video, I want to share with you something called the TPD Principle. It's a very powerful way of building a sales message. If you use this system, you're much more likely to engage and build a true relationship with your prospects and your customers. You're much more likely to be able to lead them down the right sales route, and you're much more likely to convert them to customers, which means, of course, that you will achieve the sales targets that you want to. Of course, you could just carry on doing those 20-second approaches, focusing on service, focusing on quality, focusing on price. And you know what? As a buyer, I'll just treat you as a commodity supplier. And I'll be the one who doesn't build the relationship, and I'll be making it all about price, price, price. It'll be so much more difficult for you to achieve what you want in terms of new customers and new sales. The TPD principle is a very simple system. TPD stands for three things: target audience, pain, and difference. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of those and how you can build them into your sales message. We'll start with target audience. One of the big issues that I see, not just in print sales, but in selling everywhere, is that too many companies, too many salespeople are just so keen to be all things to everyone. They're scared about turning away potential prospects. But as a result of that, they create a really average sales message. Sure, it doesn't turn anyone away, but it doesn't really attract anyone either. It's far better to build a sales message for a very specific target market. So think about who is really the right type of customer for you and build a sales message for them. One trick that I encourage people that I work with in workshops and in mentoring is to pick their favorite customer and build a sales message for them. Sure, you're already working with them, but actually that sales message will also engage lots of other companies that are very similar to that customer. Some of you, of course, may be worried about the fact that you're focusing on such a narrow market. Firstly, I'd say that often that market isn't as narrow as you think. And secondly, you don't have to have just one single sales message. You can create several of these, each message aimed at a different target market. So that's the first thing. Make sure that you've chosen exactly who you would like this message to go out to, who is your target market, and build that message specifically for them. Once you've done that, think about the challenges that your target market faces. And of course, it's rarely, how can I get my print quicker, cheaper, better? Their challenges are far bigger than that. They've often got nothing to do with print. Their challenges will be more about how they can reduce costs, how they can get more sales, how they can attract a bigger audience. And if you make your message about this rather than the print, it changes the conversation totally. Now, you may be worrying about how on earth you work out what the right challenges for your target market are. If you've already chosen an existing customer to build a sales message for, then the answer to this challenge is very simple, because you can sit down and you can talk to that customer and they'll probably tell you everything that you need to know. In fact, if you do a good interview with them, they'll probably come out with some really good marketing words that you can use in your sales letters and on your webpage. The third part of the TPD principle is difference. So already you've chosen the target market. You understand that target market, you understand the challenges that they're facing, and you've built a solution that solves those challenges. The trouble is, you may not be the only company that's offering that solution. So what do you do to encourage your prospects and your customers to use you and not the competition? That's where difference comes in. If you're looking at difference, there's 3 powerful ways to build a difference. Firstly, you may have a product or a service that's different from everyone else. And if you really do have that, I congratulate you, and you should use that in your marketing. Next, you may have products or services that are the same as the competition, but maybe you've got a special way of doing things. Maybe you've got a process that stands out from the competition. And in that case, you should definitely talk about that as your difference. And finally, maybe you've got special market knowledge. If you're concentrating and focusing on that one sector, maybe you know it better than the competition. And you know what, at that point, often someone in your target market will choose to go with someone who understands their market rather than just a generic printer. So that's how you can build a message on the TPD principle based on target audience, pain, and difference. And if you want to get going on this, then there's 3 quick things that you can do straight away. Firstly, have a look at your key customers. Choose one that you'd really like to work with. If you want more customers like them, they make the ideal target market. So a second task is to reach out to that customer and see if you can arrange 20 minutes to either sit down face-to-face with them and interview them, or have a phone call with them to find out more about the challenges that they face and also how you solve those challenges. And finally, your third action point, sit down with 2 or 3 of your colleagues and brainstorm your difference. What is it that really makes you stand out from the competition? Is it a product or a service that you offer? Is it a process that you do differently? Or do you have some special market knowledge? Once you start working on this message, you'll find that you've created something that allows you to sell very differently from the way that you have before. And you'll find that you start having some very different conversations. Let me give you an example of this. There's one company that I've worked with, and amongst their customers, they worked with a shipping company. Now, that shipping company has a big issue. They need their ships to be out there, sailing the seas and earning money. If they're tied up in port doing nothing, that's a big problem for that company. So what would happen if one of those ships was tied up in port because it didn't have the right paperwork and the right signage to be allowed to sail? That would be a very costly error. So what this company did was they built a solution for this shipping company and then for other ones as well. And they won other customers through using this process. They built a library of all the paperwork, of all the signage that needed to be created for each ship. The shipping company gave them the details, they printed it in advance, and they held packs ready to go in their warehouse. And as soon as a ship docked in port, there was a van from this company at the port with a pack of all the paperwork and signage that the ship needed straight away. Now, who are you going to choose if you need a service like that? Are you going to choose a company that specializes in that marketplace, has built a solution specifically for the needs that you have, and understands the challenges and the losses that you could face if they don't deliver? Or are you going to choose a nice printer who's got good quality, good service and cheap prices? My bet is that, of course, you go for the first company and you'd be happy to pay them more for that service. That's the advantage of creating a message based on the TPD principle. Now, naturally, it takes a little bit longer to get that across to your prospects than the 20-second introduction that I went through at the beginning of this video. But isn't it much more powerful? And isn't it better that you spend a bit of time on a worthwhile sales message rather than making it a game of numbers, making that 20-second introduction each time and ending up selling on price?